right, what is up, everyone? Welcome to another Fantasy Fishing Live here on the Serious Angler Network, abbreviated Short and Crew +1 today. So you have myself, Justin Largen, here on my right or left, however it shows up on the screen, and then Joe LaBarbera, long time ago guest on the Serious Angler Network. We haven't had him on in a minute, and has some experience up the St. Lawrence and has an idea of what's going on with the water conditions. So we figured we would bring him on to make some picks, talk about who's possibly leaving the Elite Series and might be fishing their last event. Among other things, the tight AOI race with Hamner and Chris Johnson at 1 and 2. There's a lot at stake at the St. Law, and these guys are going to catch some big bass, hopefully. And I have a funny feeling the fishery is going to be a little bit different this time around. But real quick, just want to see how things are going with you guys, and we'll start with Justin, then Joe.
Oh, I can't complain. I had coming off vacation, got to see a bunch of family, all my nieces, so I'm feeling nice and recharged, ready to jump back into work.
Joe?
Work. Oh gosh. No, I mean, I can't complain. I spend half the year in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the other half of the year up here. So I'm in the north now, and Michelle and I have been fishing a ton and filming a ton, and took a little hiatus to go to ICAST, and then turn around and took all the new products to Lake George. Got to film at Lake George for a couple of days before the Champlain event, then went up and filmed John at the Champlain event, and went home for like 2 days, and we went fishing today, like way south of the mouth of Cape Vincent, like way south, like 50, 60, 70 miles south. Tried something new, and yeah, I got to get out on the lake and do a little fishing and kind of figure out what this event's going to be like for everybody. And yeah, I don't know. I couldn't be happier. Oneida fished great this year. Looks like this place is going to fish really, really good. So I'll start fishing here after this event, and it'll be a good next couple of weeks, man.
Now, I must say, right, like I haven't paid attention too much because I've been too busy guiding, which is such a dang shame. Like
I know.
out on the water every day, right? Just jamming on largemouth and smallmouth. But what about Kyle Patrick sticking in 8-1 in practice? Like,
Donkey,
do we expect more of that? Because Paul Mueller, I think 2 or 3 years ago when it was river only, caught an 8-pounder or one that was just about 8 pounds, probably relatively the same area if I had to guess where Kyle Patrick was fishing. I don't know if he was in the lake or river. But, I mean, like, that river can put out just as big a fish as the lake can. They just seem to be more spread out.
I think here's what I think it is when it comes down to it, the lake, you can be more efficient. So that's why the Elite Series guys choose it, is because you don't have to set boat angle on a drift. You don't have to start your drift in a perfect place and always know in these conditions, are they at the top of the drift, the middle, the end? Are they up on top of a hump? Are they kind of in, like, for them, they can be really efficient, right? So we see all the...
That river isn't marked very well either, where the high spots are, the low spots.
I mean, Navionics is a little better than Humminbird in Canada. It's a lot better than Lake Master in Canada. But it's still, I mean, you have to get in areas and spend years there. And on the lake, I think those guys can play the 3 days of idle, live scope, check, like, mark 100 boulder piles, go through, drop your trolling motor on all of them, scope in there, see if they're there. And they can be very efficient for 3 days of practice. I don't think the river has less to offer. I just think it's not an efficient thing to learn. Everybody wants to say, oh, because those fish spend their whole life on a treadmill, they're smaller. Like, I don't buy into that, because there's so much current on the stinking lake too, that like those fish are free to move however they want. It doesn't matter.
Well, and that's the thing about the river too. Like this time of year, you can catch them anywhere from 6 inches of water to 90 foot of water. Like, it's kind of insane.
Yeah. And, I mean, so like, I don't think it's a current thing. I think we just don't see those mega bags in the river because it's just not
It's inconsistent.
But like we saw Matt Lee in 2018 weigh 27 pounds with at least one dead fish.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, those bags are there. The guys in the Canadian Open do it all the time too. So
but those guys also fish that body of water.
Yeah, they have
more
the
a year than everyone else. They know every little nuance and intricacy of that lake. But I think before we really start talking about St. Lawrence, we got to talk about Lake Champlain, and we're going to start off and say, thank goodness Wes is okay. You know,
100%.
There's been a lot of negativity on his Facebook posts, TikTok posts of people kind of beating him up and talking about the boat ride and how he's driving too fast in waves, etc. And, you know, we should all be just happy that the dude's okay. Like, freak weird things happen on the water. We see it all the time. It wasn't that rough. Yes, it was choppy, but it was not rough enough that he was able to drive the boat. And I don't think he was going more than 50 miles an hour, which in those conditions, could he have been going too fast? Maybe. But I mean, today out on Lake Erie, I was running my boat while I was out practicing 50 miles an hour and a 1.5 chop. Like, it's easily doable if you know how to drive a boat. When you have a submerged dock underwater that you can't see, it's going to happen. Just thank goodness he was wearing his life jacket, which they have to, having his kill switch on. You know, we saw a boat accident a few years ago at another tour where the guy was not wearing his kill switch, and thankfully he was okay. But we won't talk about that anymore. And the leash, like, what if he didn't have the leash on his outboard?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I did was go look up how much are they and like look at when my next paycheck from a sponsor comes so that it can be the first thing I buy.
Even better, Omnia has them on their website.
Do they?
Type in Series 10 and save 10%. For everyone who knows about the leash, they are sold at Omnia, and I can put a link up here in a little bit once I get everything else sorted out here, because we are hosting again. And if you paid attention last week, I struggled with it a little bit because, you know, I haven't hosted a Serious Angler episode or live show in probably like 8 to 10, maybe even a year, like months. So it's been a minute. But AOI race, let's kind of jump forward a little bit more, right? Because I want to get to Champlain, but I want to talk about this too, kind of as a precursor. And I want to know
real quick, can we go backwards for 1 sec? Sorry, Andy. I heard Wes was going 55 from like really reliable sources in the fishing industry. And based on the conditions that I saw that day when I was out filming, that is 100% acceptable. I actually think that's slow based on the speed that the rest of the competition was driving around from spot to spot that morning, given the conditions. Yeah. So Wes was below the average speed of the way the rest of the competitors traveled around the lake. And anyone who wants to give Wes Logan any crap is just misinformed and kind of, I feel like just not really evaluating the situation or having all of the information to make an accurate kind of depiction of what occurred. Like, he was being extremely safe, is an extremely safe guy. Never met him personally, but Andy, I know you and him are friends, and so I know you would second what I'm saying. Just the type of reputation he has in the industry is a very, very safe person. And I think a lot of his marshals would say the same thing. So I just think based on the conditions that's just not accurate. We shouldn't be diving all over Wes. Wes is alive because of the way Wes conducted himself, because going 70 that day, hitting that thing, I don't know if that we'd be having the same conversation.
The video would have been him flying out over the passenger seat,
100%,
not having cracked ribs, and he'd be floating in the water somewhere. So thankfully,
or if he stayed in the boat, I don't know that he might have been conscious to make a phone call to get help, you know?
Yeah. So thank goodness everything worked out well. Unfortunate that he wrecked his boat, ripped the motor off, but he cracked a few with ribs, but thank goodness.
Still weighed 15-13 and saved the tournament though.
Yeah, and how badass was that? Going back out there.
to go get his, because they had to bag his fish out of his boat and move him to the other boat, right? I think is what had to happen, I would assume. He had
I don't
3 or
know. I
4
bet
fish
they had
before
to
he came back.
But don't they have to reset you?
I
think he probably had to reset, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
But props to Jackie for going to get him and giving him his boat to go out. Like, that dude is he's so valuable. Like, I hope Bass buys him a great Christmas present every year.
That the video is like, can I go? I'm all right. Let me go back out. Like, can I fish? And they took him to the hospital. Like,
well, and real quick, anybody who doesn't know who Jackie is the service crew for SDG. So Kenta and all that whole crew from Texas, they all have an extra service trailer that keeps all kinds of stuff, like random weird gear. But Jackie and those guys that run that service, I mean, they don't turn anybody away. Like, anything that needs to be done to keep any Elite Series pro going, like SDG Marine is awesome to have around. They go to all the opens too. I mean, it's like they help Koya.
Goes, wherever Kenta
those
goes,
guys are
follow,
there,
right?
And like, just it's a blessing to have them, and they don't ever get talked about.
Yeah. So let's jump over into AOI and Rookie of the Year talk, because kind of standings are kind of crazy besides like Timothy Dubé, right? I think he's down a little bit further in the standings, but was it 8 of the top 10 are like in the top 20 in points after Champlain? Do I have
the lowest correct? Out of the 9 is 37th.
Yeah.
Milliken's last.
Yeah. Which is just insane.
Crazy.
JT Tompkins has a 1-point lead over Trey McKinney. And unfortunately, right, like Trey's couple mistakes that he's made along the way this year kind of probably took him out of the drive there. But John Garrett has a good chance. Wesley Gore still has a good chance. Like, any one of these top 4, I think, have a really good chance at winning Rookie of the Year. And if all these guys slip, like Robert G or Kyle Patrick still have a shot technically, but I think they're a little too far away.
I think John Garrett's got this one, if you want my guess. I mean, yeah. I think he's in the driver's seat because I think all the pressure is on Trey and JT, and John Garrett handles himself like a person 15 years his senior.
Well, I mean, look at all the adversity he's faced through the opens through the years. He should have been on the elites like 3 times already. Like, he gets it. He's just doing his own thing, got a blue trophy, and that'd be my pick too.
My buddy Stanky, right? Andy Stanky's with him tomorrow.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's gonna be so cool. I hope he texts me like all day.
Yeah. Like, that's insane. Like, Kyle Patrick, I think, is like in what? Let's look. AOI. Where's Kyle Patrick, our New York boy? He's sitting 16th in points, and he's 7th or 8th in Rookie of the Year. Yes, 7th in Rookie of the Year.
No way.
Like,
that's wild.
That's just ridiculous. All right.
That is nuts.
So the big elephant in the room, right? AOI. Justin Hamner, classic winner, trying to be the first one probably since KVD to win AOI and the Classic in the same year. So that one's going to be real interesting. Were you able to hear me okay? Okay, because my Siri decided to pop up on my computer, and I wasn't sure. I couldn't hear anything. But, Hamner leading by, 23? No, 13 points.
Yep.
13 points. And Fouts
is only 6 more back.
6 more back. Like,
19 back.
And people don't realize how good of a smallmouth fisherman Jacob Fouts is. Like, even here, like, Jay Shakira, outside chance, but 40 points is going to be a lot to make up. These guys all need to bomb, and Hamner had a good event last year at the St. Lawrence, if I remember correctly. At least top 20.
Yeah.
Just looking at this and
Chris
knowing
Johnson's
what we're going to talk about.
On the elites.
Given what we're going to talk about conditions wise, I think Chris Johnston. I think we'll probably see Hamner battling more with Fouts for second, and I think Chris wins it pretty handily. given. I think if it was going out of Clayton and last year's conditions, it'd be a different conversation. But I think the conversation we're about to have, Chris is going to run away with this.
Yeah. And it depends because Chris is running to the lake. He's gonna go. He's gonna go to the lake. Like he did it in the opens out of the same spot.
Messina, yeah.
Yeah.
When was it him that won? Corey that won, and then Justin Atkins got third.
Yeah.
In that Toyota.
And they had like an hour and 40 minutes to fish because they ran from Messina to the lake. And for people who don't know how far that is, it's like 58 miles or something ridiculous.
Okay, so total.
Yeah, no, I thought it was like 100.
From Messina, it's like 80 miles to the mouth. So when they were going out to Galoo, it was like 150 miles.
Yeah,
but they won't go out that far. They won't go out that far.
Could you imagine, or Kingston, even Kingston?
So
like you start getting on the far
75.
stretches of Kingston, that's a ride. Like out in the lake.
You can basically go to Kingston if you don't run 5,800 or 6,000 RPMs. You can go to Kingston and back without having to refuel too.
Yeah,
because you can get about 155 miles on a 50-gallon tank of gas if you're not running 5,800 wide open the whole way.
Yeah, but they're running 5,800 wide open the whole way.
Yeah, I mean, it could save them from getting gas though. So they may. I mean, you might see guys going down the river 67 instead of 72.
Yeah, I would. The river,
I've done it
on the way back. Like it makes more sense to do it on the way back than on the way there.
Well, the thing is there you won't know. Like you have to be experienced with like that boat and reading that, like Jason Christie did down at the Sabine. Like you have to know, because when you get to Ogdensburg, there's no more gas. So it's like you have to have made your choice pretty early in your return.
And Alex Bay will be an absolute nightmare to get gas because it's way tucked back in the marina. So really it's Clayton or right off the lake. I can't think of the area over there.
It starts with an L. Shoot, now I gotta look at Navionics. But where Brandon got
Cape
gas
Vincent.
twice.
Cape Vincent.
Yeah. There's one there, Millen Bay. Millen Bay is like 2 miles in from Cape Vincent. That's where they usually get gas.
Got it. Probably because it's more open and less traffic.
Yeah, they can get in and out really quick.
And you can't stop in Canada, because if you stop in Canada, then you have to go up the dock and call in and report that you touch Canadian soil. Yep. So and that's the other thing you have to remember. So they're basically forced to run the American Narrows on the way back. And that is no easy.
Well, it's 35. It's 35 miles an hour.
35 miles an hour in traffic.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I've swamped the boat on the most calm days ever. Like with those tour boats and all the cigarette boats and it gets wild because it's like Andy said, it's the Narrows. So water bounces off the seawalls and comes back out, and it gets wild.
Yeah, it's about like maybe a quarter mile wide in the Narrows, I think, just over a quarter mile wide.
Yeah, they're super
and
tight
100
spots.
feet deep in spots. Like it's insane, but super beautiful. We're set to see some insane fish catches going on at the St. Lawrence, and I honestly hope that it's more of a river tournament than a lake tournament, because we're due for a good old river beatdown, and the river is fishing better than ever based on what I've seen from some tournament results. The lake is probably fishing better than ever based on some of the tournament results that we've seen. And I'm scared that we're reaching the peak of smallmouth fishing in like New York State, and we're going to see a big downfall soon, because every year we're like, this is it. This is the best it's ever been. And it's like, it is incredible right now.
Yeah. I mean, at some point you got to figure we're going to run out of forage to feed the little ones, right? All the big ones get the first choice of food. So how are we going to keep the next generation?
You have to remember there's an endless supply of multiple year reproducing gobies, and the bait fish population is the best it has ever been.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we are seeing it on some of the smaller bodies of water, though. Smallmouth bass numbers are lower than ever on Oneida, but the fish are bigger than ever. So.
Yeah, but you have to remember too, gobies are relatively new to Oneida.
Oh, yeah.
they've been there 20 years, right? Maybe 15, 20 years. So like
they've been studying them for 5.
Yeah, the goby population's just starting to take off, and the same thing happened on Erie and Ontario like 15 years into them being in the water. The smallmouth populations actually dipped because gobies are nest raiders. So as soon as you pull smallmouth off the bed, kiss those eggs goodbye because they're all in there eating the eggs immediately. But the smallmouth will adapt to that, and eventually you get prolific giant fish. Like I think that's why Cayuga is kind of going off, because the gobies are in there, but there's not as many because of the way the lake is set up, and they're feeding on everything. So it's kind of interesting to see the dynamic of gobies in a fishery. So
it's fun for guys like us too, because when the season opens, you know, those males are fry garden forever, and they're living longer, and you know, because they're not dying in the winter either, because it's not as cold anymore. Like it's good. It's good for us.
It's very good sport. Us. All right. So real fast, we're going to go through the point logs for Champlain for Fantasy Fishing Leaderboard and Drain the Lake. Then we're going to get into our fantasy fishing picks. Joe, did you make yours?
I've never ever done fantasy fishing.
Well, you should probably log into Bassmaster and go find some picks so you can input here.
Yeah. Do I need to?
You don't have to input them, just who you think would be in each group, and I'll put it up on the screen too and scroll through so you can make your pick.
Oh yeah, I'm quick to pick. I watch all my buddies do it. I've just never played.
Well, you're going to be up first, so
okay,
beware. So all right, so any other highlights from Champlain that you guys want to talk about before we go through the points? I hardly watched it, unfortunately. So
I watched a little bit. I didn't watch a ton of the coverage, but I wanted to shout out Brian. I'm going to butcher his last name, Nakuyan, maybe. In the chat, he mentioned Fouts. That nobody's talking about Fouts. I was thinking about that earlier. Like the dude was second in the points, finishes in the top 10, and then is now third in the points.
Yeah,
going into the next week. That's got to be a little bit of a buzzkill, but
but I mean, the point race has actually gotten a lot tighter too, because Hamner didn't slip, but I mean, he had like a 23rd or 22nd place finish or something like that, like mid 20s. So really, like if he finishes in the top 15 or top 10, there's a bigger gap there. So he kind of opened the door even more, and that AOI race is going to be extremely exciting to watch unfold this weekend. And I'm going to have some time Sunday to watch, so I'm really looking forward to watching it.
I just think it's incredible. Like they say there's no gobies in Champlain, or at least they were saying it up to like.
They have to be.
I mean, how are those fish getting that much bigger? I mean, you can look at them. It's not just that we're targeting a new class of fish and blah, blah, blah. Like they're getting bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, all the weights, like BFL weights, everything's going up. It's not just technology. Like those fish are growing. It's just cool. Like,
well, you also have to remember too, we've had a lot warmer winters the last 3-4 years, and Champlain hasn't frozen. Typically, that's a lake that freezes almost solid, and it's been in like the upper 30s, low 40s all winter long because our winters have been warm until this year. I'm calling it now. We are going to have an extremely cold winter in the Northeast, and that is an entirely different forecast proxy thing that we can talk about here in the near future. But I study weather quite a bit on the side, and I think we're gonna be in for a big snowy cold winter from about the Maryland light north. So good luck down there, Justin. You'll probably be on the fringe. So, but let's talk about points. Brennan Chapman, Mr. Analytics himself, is unfortunately having a really bad fantasy year, and he had 721 points, and he's got 7,473 points, sitting in 6th place. He's going to need about 2,000 points and everyone to bomb to have a shot at the lead here. Coming in 5th is Jake Boomer. He bombed as well this last event with a 702. I think he won our fantasy fishing last year. No, I think he took 2nd and won Rookie of the Year with. And he's got a total grand point total of 8,448. He's going to need a pretty big tournament as well. Bailey sitting in 4th mid-pack. He had 967. Justin Largen, good tournament for you. 1,024 points. Hey, didn't you pick Ed Loughran? Ed Loughran with the win, catching largemouth in the middle of the lake. That great choice. Welcome back, Ed. Right, that's a storyline we should
kidding.
have talked about. Yeah, and then
5 bonus points.
That is, you should. Yeah, it is. That's fantastic for you. So kind of put you back in the race, right? If Deakin bombs, you're 500 behind. So if you have like a 1,500 point and he's 1,000, you have a shot.
Yeah, if you and Deakin do what I did on week 5 or whatever and put up 500 points, then I have a chance. But that's about the only way.
Listen, you're not the only one who had a 500 point score total in that, but you might have had the lowest of all time.
I did. I looked.
The lowest of all time,
at least for this year. I don't know for the all time, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that 512 is like, if you think about it though, like if you have an average event like a 900 to 1,000, you're right there with us, right? You would have a shot.
Oh, on that one, yeah.
If
I had picked one person that had a decent
tournament, you'd be sitting at 100 points. You're 100 points behind Deakin. Anything goes in the last event. I'm sitting in second. I had 1042 and I have 8895 for my total points. So about 300 behind Deakin. So really going to need him to slip up this event. And I have a feeling we're all going to have relatively the same picks. So it might be hard to do. And then Adam Deakin sitting in first with 9,200 total overall. And I think this will be his second year in a row if he pulls it off of winning fantasy fishing for us here. And Drain the Lake, Bailey has the official point totals. I do not. Unfortunately, I have that big goose egg down here. I should actually put it on the screen. I got a big old goose egg sitting down here at the bottom. Bailey has my points for that one, and I think I'm actually leading, if not like basically tied for Deakin at first. But I'm in last right now with 12,940 based on the screen. Justin.
It's a lie. I'm in last.
Then we got Boomer, Brennan Chapman, Bailey, and then Deakin. And pretty sure our point totals are actually really close, but I think he might have pulled ahead of me by like 100 or 2. So based on that. So are we ready to talk about, let me pull it up here, the roster, and we're going to start in Group E and who we're going to choose this week for fantasy fishing for the St. Lawrence River. And
yeah, I'm going to do a lot of I'm going to do a lot of listening because you guys know a lot more about this fishery than I do.
Oh, I mean, I think Mike Huff's definitely is a very strong pick. He might be. I think Cifuentes finally has a breakout tournament. That'd be my pick, Cifuentes.
He had a good event at Champlain, 16th, I think.
Yeah, and I think he follows it up again. Like the dude, like from so many years, was it David Fritz? No, Larry Nixon was his mentor.
Yep.
They just being good with a crankbait translates a lot into fishing any type of current, whether it's windblown current, natural flowing rivers. My pick is Joyce Fuentes.
Speaking of that, do you remember, I think it was for the last time it was river only or the year right before COVID, Ray Hanselman had a top 10 in the St. Lawrence cranking grass in mid-river. I'm like, sign me up for that bite. I don't want to go out there. Like, if we talk about this all the time, like Bailey, I'm like, I don't want to trailer my boat 4 hours to go catch more smallmouth. Like, but if do something different like that, I'm all about it. Like,
was that one Hunter did well too?
Yeah, flipping docks around Clayton. Yeah.
Yep.
And Brock Mosley had like the mixed bag every day.
Yep.
But that much earlier in the year too. I think that was like immediate post spawn. They were all in a funk.
Yeah, that's that second week of July tournament they've had before. Yeah.
Yeah, the worst time ever. All right, Justin, who do you got?
I went the same, Cifuentes. He's another one of those guys. I just don't see him having. I feel like it was uncharacteristic the way that he's fished this year,
he's had
as well as he did 2 years ago. Yeah, he's due.
Well, I think he's done a lot to change his off the water routines too. Like, started out the year traveling with Trey. It just didn't work out. Tried to travel with Soak Up for a while and then just decided my wife and my family are coming with me for the rest of the year. Took him an event or two in Alabama to get that kind of figured out. And now I feel like even when you see him in the morning at the dock, he's ready to go. Like he's a different guy. He's ready to fish.
Yeah, he'll be all right. Just a weird year for him.
Yeah.
So, when he's won smallmouth events before, so he could very well be an absolute dark horse here. Great pick. Bailey also went with Cifuentes. Brennan Chapman is going to go David Mullins, hopefully to save his Elite Series career, which is something we should talk about after we go through all our picks. All the goodbyes we might be saying to some elite veteran folks, guys that might retire possibly. And this is all hearsay. We don't know who is and who isn't. But guys retiring, guys that are going to be gone, like from classic qualifiers to top 10s in classics, like possibly even win in AOIs a few years. It's going to be a crazy different Elite Series next year. Just a hunch feeling. So Brennan with Mullins, and the Sheekin has taken Matt Robertson, which that's a sporty, fun pick. He finally got it on the right track at Champlain as well. Another guy who's having an uncharacteristically bad season. So
he started climbing back. I mean, he was like second from the bottom for a solid portion of the year. He's climbing back. I still think he bombs this event. Last time they got stuck in the river his rookie year, he was almost about to win ROI. Didn't finish like 88th. That Patrick Walters finished 87th in that event. Like no knock on Matt, no knock on his river fishing. I'm just picking a fantasy pick, right? I think this is this specific Derby, not for Matt. Last Derby, Matt rocks on Champlain. I don't think this one's Matt's.
Do you think we see any largemouth come to the weigh-in?
I was just thinking that
if they're stuck in the river or they don't want to run to the lake. No. You have to remember though, like before the max exodus from the Elite Series, I believe Greg Hackney had a top 10 fishing largemouth, and De Palma had a mixed bag though.
Oh yeah, De Palma. What Greg was doing was day 4 he swung trying to go for largemouth. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I think he caught largemouth all 4 days. Honestly, one of the terms I think it was one KVD one. He fished for largemouth the entire event and had like 80-something pounds.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they play. I think the number of guys that I know a lot of guys in practice looked for him last week, and I don't think they found him. I don't know that I don't know that it stacks up.
Yeah, it's a funky place for largemouth, but when you know where to look, there are some giants in that river. I've heard. Like,
I mean, dude, I weighed big fish out of Messina. I had a 6.0 one year in a Toyota, and it was a largie. He was down on one of my smallmouth spots. They live there, and the ones that start eating gobies, they live there year in year out. Like Jonathan Kelly knows where a lot of them are. Him and his dad, and some of us locals. Like, I mean, we catch them in derbies, but
not so often.
I don't know. They're lazier, and I don't think the conditions set up real well for it.
I'm on the Cifuentes train as well in Group E. It's just too hard to pass up, but there is this little guy down here that always seems to show up. Hold on, let me see if I can find him. You know who I'm talking about?
Bernie.
Guy has probably more time on the St. Lawrence than any of these other dudes because I think he lives up there like for part of the off season. Bernie Schultz always seems to like have a top 20 at the St. Lawrence. So if you're looking for a wild card sleeper pick at low percentage, Bernie Schultz is a great pick always on the St. Lawrence. And he's one of the guys that this might be his last ever elite event, unfortunately. But
go Burn. He's a good dude.
Go Burn. Yes. All right. On to Group D. Justin. I just called you Justin. Yeah.
I mean,
Joe, lead us off.
Oh, I didn't realize the first time. These are in percentage order, huh?
They are in percentage order, buddy. And that's for everyone who's tuning in.
I love me some Kobe Krieger. He is so good. Kenna's definitely my favorite fisherman.
Mark Frazier, his brothers won an Elite Series event in the river.
And we were just talking Hanselman. Jay Willie needs a good derby. It'd be nice to see him kick butt. I mean, how do you not pick Bryant Smith, though? How do you not pick Bryant Smith, though?
Yeah, he's having a weird year, but I mean
That's what I
He's
said too.
like, how do you not pick the all-time single day smallmouth record holder? And he's the nicest dude on the planet.
Oh, I
like,
love Bryant. Yeah.
I'm going with California. I choose Brian Smith.
California.
Yeah.
Should never do that again, but now you have that song stuck in my head. Justin, who do you got?
I picked him as well. Brian Smith. Yeah. I don't really have anything to add either.
Well, the consensus board is going to tell you that Brian Smith is also Bailey's choice, but Brennan is taking Paul Mueller, who is very good up there as well, and Deakin's going with Kento, who I think Kento had a top 10 last year, right? Or was close.
He did top 10, yes.
Yeah. And the one day he ripped his trolling motor off of his boat and had to have it fixed because my one guide client was his marshal and said it was like the most terrifying boat ride of his life. Yeah. He was doing like 70 and like 2.5 foot chop in the river.
Darn bass cat, dude. The thing's like this wide.
No, man, just ripping darts and chugging Red Bulls. He's just going. Gotta love Kenta. And
I mean, he's one of the dudes that runs the saltwater deucer and the LVS 34.
Yeah. Him and Koya, right?
Yeah. I mean, then there's a few more guys. Like Fouts is doing it this year too.
Yeah.
I saw him do it. I saw his boat at the last event, and I saw both deucers on there. But like, I mean, so Ken is always dangerous with the small mouse.
Yeah. He's just dangerous everywhere. He's like the most accomplished opens angler that just like you take half the field away and it's like, where'd Kenta go?
Mm-hmm.
But he does have that 1 or 2 tournaments every year. So my pick is going to be Paul Mueller. The guy, if the guy can just catch smallmouth, he'll be interesting. He knows where they live in the river and he knows where they live in the lake. And you know, northern fisheries just always tend to repeat where fish live. You'll probably see them in a group. I won't be surprised. Did they announce who's going to be on live boats tomorrow yet?
I don't think so.
We'll have to look. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one that has like a live boat on him based on his tournament practice. But like, well, let's think about that for a second. Live boats, you're going to have Hamner, Chris Johnston, because they're battling for 1 and 2. Then who's 1 and 2 rookies for rookie of the year? Those are 2 more boats probably.
It's Trey and JT.
Yeah, they'll probably have cameras with them. They should do 10 cameras tomorrow like they do on the final 2 days or the final day, because there's a lot that could happen.
There really is.
So that'd be cool to see what they end up doing. All right. Group.
I don't see it on
they
Instagram.
They haven't announced it. Yeah,
They're probably trying to figure it out.
it's not easy.
And we still have to talk about weather too. I think there's some squirrely weather coming in at Saturday, which I completely forgot about. So we'll circle back to weather after we're done with our picks here. All right, on to Group C. Joe, who are you liking in Group C?
It's the 2 Minnesotans. Oh, Fighter or Felix.
Maddie Wong, top 10 last year. Alex Retherall has a ton of time up there.
Oh, I love
Carl's really good like sneaky good up there as well.
I'm going Austin Felix.
And
you're 100% correct in everyone you said. That's why
Jonathan Kelly.
Yeah.
See,
Jonathan's a good dog too.
And people forget Jason Christie has won smallmouth events.
Actually, like Brian Schmidt, dude. Brian Schmidt is so dirty on this body of water.
What?
He's a river guy too. Like Schmidt can get it done in the river.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, Group C is tough, and everyone's going with Koya, which makes sense, right? Like, great live scoper, but
I'm going Schmitty. I got to change it. Schmitty. Fished against him up here too many times. He's too good.
Brian Schmidt. Interesting choice. I like that. Justin.
I actually did not pick Schmidt for this one. I went Koya. I went with everybody else.
Got it.
I loved him for Champlain. He's been so good there historically, but I don't know. It was hard for me to not pick Koya for this one. He's I feel like he's had since the start of the year, he's kind of tapered off. He's had a weird, I guess he's been in a weird funk. he didn't do terrible at Champlain, but the way I think it was the start of this year, or
Yeah, he blew out the doors at Toledo Bend, and then just slowly like.
I was looking at him like he's going to be the next KVD and just go out there and scope minnow all of them. And
who was the other person they pronounced Cape was going to be the next KVD, and then his career kind of just like disappeared. I think we're gonna go random trivia here. Who knows who this is? I believe he won his first 2 ever Elite Series events. They basically crowned him like the next KVD. He's a Tennessee River guide, and I don't know if he might have won both, or he won one and like was really close to winning his second one, and then never really did it again.
I'm trying to blind.
Derek Remitz. Yeah.
I thought he was a Minnesota guy.
No, he's Tennessee. He's I believe he's the guide on Gunnersville. Yeah.
I could have sworn Remitz was a northern guy. And
well, it's because he almost won. No, he won that open on Erie that Pete Glusick almost won also.
Yeah.
So everybody was thinking he was this northern guy.
No, but he won 2 Elite Series events too.
Oh yeah, he won his very first. Yeah.
He was dragging a jig out deep, I think.
Derek Remitz.
I forgot about him.
Bassenmeyer, and I think somebody else in here said it as well. Oh, Tony Andrews. All top 6 AOI will start with cameras tomorrow.
That makes it easy.
That's a good way to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like it.
Bass Fanatic said he is a northern guy. He moved to Gville, so he might have been from like Minnesota or Wisconsin.
I swear he has that Minnesota accent.
Yeah.
I remember watching him. He was young too.
We haven't said this in a while, but Scott Martin, Bass Fanatic, do you know where he is originally from?
Oh, he's not from Florida, huh? They're not Floridians.
He is not. Derek Remitz is not a Floridian. But all right, so Bailey took Matty Wong in Group C, a guy who had a really good, strong tournament there last year. Brennan also took Paul Mueller. I feel like I should switch my picks. I took Austin Felix. And Deakin also took Austin Felix. And in Group C, I'm going complete backwards river current guy, kind of swinging here because I need to make up some ground. But he's done good when he's made a right-hand turn and headed towards Messina. I'm going to take Seth Feider in Group C.
I think that's a really good pick, Andy.
So, like, when they've gone out of the middle of the river in Waddington, think of like guys that have made right-hand turns and done really well. Seth Feider, Edwin Evers. There's big fish if you turn right. And I feel like they're going to be fish that are going to be slightly overlooked in this event. And he might have a bunch of water all to himself running right. And it's a little bit closer than running all the way to the lake.
The other good pick, if along that same thought process for anybody who's still picking tomorrow, is GDP. He's coming off of a top 10 last week. And when Greg top 10 the last time, like 2018,
he's thrown a Carolina rig down around
Carolina rig. No. It was the middle section of the river. It was just west of Ogdensburg.
Well, yeah, that's another area that has giants, but getting them to bite is a little tricky.
But given these conditions, there is a ton of really fishable high current water in that section of the river. And if the river's getting some of the color that we've seen out on the lake the last couple days, they might fire hard there.
It's a sneaky pick. Let's hope GDP has a great St. Lawrence event as well, because I think he's another one that's kind of on that cut line, right? Possibly.
Greg is, I feel like he keeps himself kind of in that 70th range, so he's safe, but I haven't looked at him specifically,
Got it. All right.
I hope he stays, because if he comes to the kayak tournaments, I'm going to be in trouble.
I mean, like, here's the thing, right? Is like Greg's entire life is fishing. He spent 8 years. He qualified, turned it down, spent 8 more years trying to qualify again. He will continue to do this. This is Greg DePalma. Millville, New Jersey will not stop. He is not done.
Millville, New Jersey. Well, let's hope he gets it done. Oh, jeez. All right. Group B. Joe, who you got?
Scroll down a little. Ooh, this one's
Pretty tough too.
Yeah, all right, back up. Who's it? Oh, okay. Wow, that was the whole thing. I was hoping there was like one or two that I overlooked.
Here's I'm not picking him, but here's a sneaky good pick who had a good event there last year. Drew Cook.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that. I'm more of a I'm a Kyle Welcher guy, I guess. I think that's kind of, yeah, I got to go Welcher.
Not Taku.
Taku.
Alex Redwine.
I honestly, so for me, the Taku, Justin Atkins, Pat Schlapper picks are lake picks. Yeah. And I'm still, I think this tournament will be won within 40 miles of the takeoff. So I don't even think you have to go all the way to the lake. At least you won't be going on Saturday likely. So it's the guys who can grind out 23 3/4, 24 pounds a day. Cause I think 96 will win it like in the river. And I think Kyle is such a versatile guy that he will not stop till he gets 24 pounds a day. And I think Kyle can do it.
I like it.
Well, I'm nervous now.
Justin.
Because I went with the obvious pick. I went with Taku. And yeah, he I thought he was going to have a really good showing on Champlain too, and he made the cut. But yeah, different fishery, different style, I suppose. But yeah, I've got a bunch of what I think or what I anticipate are guys that are going to run at the lake. So I don't know. I'm hoping the lake plays.
Yeah, it'd be you know what I just thought about, Joe? You know, it could really play in this event if somebody decides to pick it up and have some fun. This could be that 1 ounce river spinnerbait event.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, like when you get a little bit of color in big current, smallmouth, if you have sunny conditions, will get super shallow and they will hawk down a giant spinnerbait.
Look who's ranked 33rd who has the experience to know that.
Who's that?
Greg Hackney, dude.
Yeah.
Ooh,
like you might see some funny stuff and be like, what is going on here? Like, this is an event that the crankbait could play, a big spinnerbait could play. You can see Brock Mosley throwing a chatterbait again and getting big fish. Like,
dude, you're right. The like DT20 could play in this.
Yeah. DT20, OSP, a 5XD, 6XD. Yeah.
I forgot that guys do that here because I've caught them like one day ever doing it.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a total player sometimes.
If the water is slightly dingy, like I just see like that old coleslaw war eagle, like 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce war eagle with the big white blades.
Yeah.
Like, who did that? Somebody did that at
Series did it on St. Clair. Oh, no, you're right. It was Mille Lacs.
Yeah, yep. Like that style spinnerbait fishing, and somebody, like this right here, Devin Willis, like, please do. Like, yes, please. Like, I think this is something that you're going to see happen. Somebody's going to do it and be close to that top 10, and everyone's going to be like, all right, just put a camera on his boat because this is fun.
This is awesome. This is great TV right now.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, MJ, I don't know, just because of like, I don't know if you're from New York or where you're at, MJ, but about a week ago, we got hit with the remnants of the hurricane that came up the southeast coast. In central New York to the Thousand Islands area, got like 5 to 10 inches of rain, and every single river that flows into that body of water, Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence, is dumping mud still to this day. Just absolutely just dumping mud. So it's it's gonna be interesting.
I mean, here, like, this should give you a pretty good idea. Michelle caught one today on the lake. There's not a stripe on that fish. Like they're not black, they're not green. They're the color of the mud right now.
Yeah.
And it's just they've had days to wear that color. And like, I mean, it was the color of Justin's shirt after I fizzed him and took him out of the live well. I left him in the live well for like an hour. And it was the color of Justin's shirt when I took him out of the live well and let him go. Like, it's just different. This is going to be a different week than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Steve Kennedy throwing the glide bait to make them show themselves and catch them with something else. Remember that? Remember that live coverage up there? I don't know if you ever got a live boat, but he was doing that in the event and catching giants, like following. They would chase the glide bait all the way to the boat, and then he would just throw something finesse at him and catch him.
He just throws the 3.3 Kitech at him.
Yeah, it's a great follow-up bait.
Yep,
so
that's what it is.
Bailey went with red wine. And then Brennan and Deakin also took Taku. Man, we have quite the assortment of picks here, don't we?
So what are you doing, Andy?
Oh, I'm taking Alex red wine.
Oh, you get okay, cool.
Yeah, I got to back my buddy here on this one. Alex, another great smallmouth fisherman. He probably spends more time smallmouth fishing than most of the guys here, besides the Johnstons. He doesn't have quite the experience up at the St. Lawrence and Lake Ontario that I know of. But he also rooms with Jay Shakira, and the two of them just understand smallmouth bodies of water.
Oh, yeah.
So, yep, Alex Redwine is my pick in Group B. Kind of swinging for it. I got to catch up to Deakin somehow here. So,
how is Redwine in points this year?
He's having a pretty good year. I think he's in the top 20. He's having his best year ever. Because I think last year he was fighting to survive, like to stay. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Red wine is sitting in 25th. So he can, so he's safe at this point, right?
So will this be his first classic? Because he didn't fish the last one, did he?
No, he didn't make it. Yeah. So as long as he doesn't bomb, which I don't foresee him doing on a smallmouth body of water, because I think he topped 10 or top 5 the open there to qualify for the elites too. The year that you cracked your giant bags there. I think
he was. I don't know if it was top 10, but it was like, no, it might have been. It was definitely top 20 because he beat me in that derby for sure, and I was 30th or 28th or something.
Yeah,
and I know he beat me because he was in I weighed like 20 and a half or something. And he was like 23 and 21 or something. Like he sacked him that. And he came back like 3 hours early the second day.
Yeah. Just insane. He's a good fisherman. I got to fish with Alex a couple years ago in his rookie season. Right after Wes came up and hung out with me for a few days as well. And tell you what, that kid, he gets it. It's really exciting to see it all come together now for him. Now that he's got a couple years of experience. The future's bright. He's a young kid. He's going to be somebody I think we're talking about here in the near future as one of the guys. He's going to get a blue trophy. It's not a matter of when. Not a matter of if, but when for him. So.
Wow. Would you look at these percentages in Group A?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Like Group A, right? Why does Coop have 5.8%? And he probably, I'm not going to say he knows the St. Lawrence as good as the Chris and Corey Johnstons, but he's just as good of a smallmouth fisherman as both of them. Like,
he might be a better fisherman with less local knowledge.
That's what I said last year, and everyone made fun of me. Like,
did they?
Oh yeah, they ripped me on that one.
I mean, I think Chris and Corey are probably way better, like Florida, that kind of stuff. But like, I mean, Coop just gets structure fishing, man. Like, I mean, he's so good.
Yeah. So who's your pick, Joe?
What were you going to say, Justin?
Oh, I was just going to say, it's kind of like we were talking earlier. I think maybe we were offline. We hadn't gone live yet, but the stats that Chris Johnston has put up on this fishery, I mean, he's
top 10 every Bassmaster event that he's fished here, and his worst finish is 7th in an open.
They said I think he's finished of the 20 days, something like, I don't think he's been outside the top 10 in any day of fishing. Like it just, it's kind of so good too. That it's like I didn't pick him, but I see where everybody did.
Yeah. Like it's Chris Johnson. You can tell too, like he's going to run to where he's going to go. It's kind of funny to watch him fish because he'll go to an area just to get 22 pounds, right? Like he's like, this is where I'm going to catch 22, 23 pounds. And then he'll be like, I'm going to slowly work out and go catch a big one or two and then run in. Like if you watch every tournament that they fish here, he starts relatively the same area, catches the same amount of weight, and then he goes out and cracks 2 or 3 giants.
I mean, if you compare it to golf, it's like that dude who plays his home, who's like the home course, very dominant. And he's just like, I know on 13 and 17, they have the easy hole placements today. That's where I'll upgrade. Like, that's where I'm going to swing. So, like, that's how they are.
He's got 40 to 50, probably those easy 13 and 17 holes on a par 3, right? Like,
yeah, it's just like, it's crazy.
And, it's kind of crazy too to think about. I bet you they hold the stuff back too that's even better that they don't want to take a camera to or have exposed on Bass Live.
Well, I mean, we've heard other anglers say it on, I believe, this show before.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean,
like they have stuff in their back pocket that it's like, oh my.
Like I know some guys in the opens who have followed them around and learned that, I mean, these guys, I mean, this is their fishery.
Yeah.
Like their dad started bringing them here when they were, still in school. So they get it. I mean, like,
and they understand where that one gravel spot is with like with a rock that's maybe 3 foot by 5 foot on that slate edge that they have hundreds of those, like honey holes.
And like, imagine how like we roll up to this fishery, we get 3 days of practice, or in the opens, 4.5 days of practice. And we've done it, 5, some of us 10, some guys like Brian Bylotus, 20 years. But like, dude, they've idled so much of this stuff that like they've even had time to idle the stuff that shouldn't hold fish to find the places that like, there shouldn't be a 6-pounder that lives here, but we found it, like they had time to do all that stuff too.
Yeah, so. It's kind of crazy, like being a full-time guide on Erie, and I talk about this quite a bit. I've started, like I knew some of that stuff that went on, like on my days off or like after a guide trip, I go back out and just idle. Yeah. I'm starting to find like some off the wall stuff that's just like there's no reason a smallmouth should be right here, but every time I roll up to it now, I catch a giant. And I'm like, now it makes sense, and now I'm putting it all together, and I got like 30 of those spots. It's just like, this is nuts.
Yeah,
like that's why my Camus has 340 hours on it in a year and a half. Like, idling. Yeah, it's insane. So, did you pick your pick, Joe?
I picked Jordan Lee.
Interesting. Slugging here in Group A.
I just think he's fun, right? He's sitting in 11th or 12th, or he was before Champlain. I don't know what he's sitting right now.
Nothing to lose.
So, like, he's going to be in the Classic. He's Jordan Lee. So, like, he should have all the confidence in the world to go out there and just absolutely kick butt in a river. And he's so used to launching from when he fished the BPT, when he fished bass before he left for BPT. He launches it on that end of the river all the time. Jordan knows the river really well. He's one of the best anglers in the world.
Yeah, he's another one that could go right, and everyone's like, whoa, where's he going?
Could. I mean, who knows what he's going to do? Yeah. That's what makes him like a fun pick.
I like that.
It's like, dude's going to go out there and just kick butt. I mean, And what's his percentage? I mean, come on. We
Nothing.
picked Jordan Lee right now. What is he? 0.8. Like, I mean, that's how you make up some points in fantasy fishing. If you're close to the top of Tackle Warehouse or, here, wherever you guys play, like, I'd go Jordan Lee all day long.
Devin will catch me an aluminum Ranger Saturday following anyone that turns right. I love that.
Yes.
Dude, talking about picks or people that aren't picked, didn't Walters win this last year?
No, he was close.
So who won it?
No, he
because I thought.
Wait, did he win it last year?
Because I thought he won it, and I thought because it's the tournament where Welcher broke down and
I think
Patrick he did 105 even. Yeah,
105, and he's got 4% for this year.
Yeah, Walters, Chris Johnson took second, Koya, Taku, Kyle Welcher, Corey, Kenta, Hamner took 8th last year.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, 8th.
Whoa.
Matty Wong, Scott Martin, Luke Palmer, Matt Robertson, Zaldane is another good pick in Group A. He always does well. Cody Huff, who's having an incredible year, and I think until Champlain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wasn't Cody sitting in the top 5 in AOI for quite a long time this year?
Yeah, and I think
he's not there, he's just outside.
8th. He's in 8th because he slipped a little bit. Yeah, having a great year. But yeah. And
Zaldane's sitting about 15th in AOI points. He's another guy who can just and Chris has spent
13th. No, wait, no, he's not 13th. Chris Zaldane is sitting 17th. Talk about having like a sneaky good quiet year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, him and Jordan are the same pick to me. It's just, you could go either way. And I just happen to pick Jordan just because, I don't know, it's Jordan. And I think he's kind of due for one. It's his first year back. And I think he's pretty motivated that he hasn't really made an impact. He could do it here and leave us all thinking about it. But Zaldane could do the same thing, he's having a real good season. And this could make us all really remember for the next 5 months of an off season, could remind us all who Chris is,
Or does Chris Johnston pull stuff out of his pocket that we haven't even seen him do yet because he literally is right on the verge of winning AOI.
Okay, so that's where we can really even talk about these river conditions and this water clarity more is if you're up in Kingston, Gananoque, or anything on the lake, but outside of Kingston, not down south of Cape Vincent where we've seen everybody go, the islands Galoo, Stony, but if you stay up along, I'm trying to go the right direction, up along Canada, and will those guys stay out? Will there be some clean water up there on the lake to live scope boulders and fish the way these guys have been fishing all year? If there's water up there that's clear to be found, Chris and Corey know where it is. And they didn't have to look for it. They knew where it was and drove right to it in practice. So
no, they probably didn't even go to it. They probably just
didn't want anybody to see them going there.
Yeah, it's clear over there. We're good.
Yeah. And they're talking about it, and they're chilling. And Matt and Seth are over there trying to listen. What did they say? Did you hear them?
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Are they giving them nuggets? You know what I mean? Because they're all rooming together. Hey, this is where you want to go.
I mean, Seth doesn't ask.
Yeah,
I just know Seth well enough to know he doesn't ask. Now, will Matt ask? I don't know. I don't know if he's that kind of a guy. We all know he's more outspoken than most, but I don't know if he might just still be like Seth and just be no, I do it myself. I don't know how that household operates.
Yeah, definitely an interesting dynamic with those Derby boys.
I only watched the first episode. Did you guys watch beyond the first?
I haven't yet. I want to though.
I want to see what this thing turns into, man.
They both said, "Don't ask the why." Oh my gosh!
Let's see. How many episodes have they posted?
I think 2.
So okay. So I didn't see. I got to watch the second one.
All right, Justin, Group A.
I went with Corey. I feel like the Johnsons have the advantage here. They've proven it, but I feel like I don't know. Can Chris? Can he do as well as he's done forever? Like, at what point does
The answer is yes.
That's
Like,
kind of what.
So
like-
to put it in perspective, right? Like, and I don't know if we've talked about Chris Johnson and Corey Johnson quite enough on this show for fantasy fishing. Like, there's a little lake that's like 2 hours north of me in Canada that the first day I heard that they struggled with like a 25-pound bag, right? And they're sitting in second. So what do they go out and do day 2? Put it all on the lines and drop to 30, just under 30-pound bag and won by like 3 pounds.
Dang.
Like, and I mean, it's like their secondary home body of water, right? But like, he's just, when it comes to smallmouth fishing, Chris Johnson is like, you could paint him the color of a smallmouth and you would know that was Chris Johnson because the guy just catches them. He eats, breathes, and smells smallmouth for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Same with Corey, but I personally think Corey's like the better all-around fisherman. Chris is like the smallmouth
Chris
guy.
closes. Chris closes too.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was awesome seeing Corey get the win earlier this year and doing it basically in 3 days.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I don't know, I feel like Chris has done better on the smallmouth. You know, I guess marginally.
Well, the issue with the two is Corey always seems to have like a bad break. Like the one year, I think he's still top 10 or top 15. He's like in 2 different boats, ripped the trolling motor off, blew up a motor, and he still caught him. Like that's how good it's
realized the clock was set for the wrong time zone.
Yeah. Like,
still gets 36th.
Oh, like doing all kinds of crazy weird stuff and still caught enough fish to get 36th place. Like,
yeah, and I guess looking at the stats, he's about half as picked as his brother. So,
and
I like that fact too.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, Chris closes though. Like, I don't know. That's why I think he'll win AOI. I mean, I think no matter what, Chris. Like, were they both in the top 10 last year? By the way,
yeah,
I think they were. Yeah, Chris just closes. So, no matter who closes fantasy, I think we see Chris close the door on the season for sure.
And like, I'm not saying Corey's like a wild card, right? But like when I look at Chris and Corey, it's like Chris is very straight to the point, and Corey's kind of like that, not the loose cannon, but he's like more closely aligned with like Matt and Seth.
Well, I think,
way,
yeah.
Like he's just a wild card. You don't know what you're getting out of Corey.
Chris is more that like, and I really don't mean this negatively, but you ever seen The Accountant? He's like very strategic. Ben Affleck's got the pocket protector. Like Chris is very calculating. Corey's like, screw it. I'll take my shirt off like Bert Kreischer and freaking fire it up. You know, like he's more willing to like straight send it, or like Corey's like gonna calculate it out, you know.
So apparently one of the Johnson brothers has a multiple lifetime bans from a hockey league, and I'm gonna say it's probably Corey.
Yeah,
you can't confirm or deny it or plead the fifth, Devin, but I would love to know. Because like there's 2 things Canadians take extremely seriously: smallmouth fishing and ice hockey. So like
just the frozen pond in general.
Floor hockey, yes.
Floor hockey, yeah.
All right, so I love that. So Bailey took Cooper, Brennan also took Cooper Gallant, and Deakin has taken Chris Johnston. I believe. I got to double check that to make sure.
Sounds like Deke went safe. Like,
do
is
you
he sitting
blame
good
him?
In points?
Yeah, he's up by a bit.
Okay, so that's why. Got it.
Yeah, he took Chris Johnston, and I take him every year, the same pick in Group A, and he has never let me down. Taking Chris Johnston. So let's talk about weight. Well, I pull up the weather report here. And I'm going to pull it up for Clayton because I think that's going to be the more important place. And I want to know everyone in the comments too what they think is going to be the weight prediction. Are we going to see a century belt? Are we going to see multiple century belts? Are we not going to see a century belt this time around? Joe, lead us off.
96, 24 a day.
Like it.
So it's just we have 2 great days, Thursday, Friday. And like you hinted at, kind of mentioned, Saturday, total change of conditions, right? Pressure change, weather change, everything changes. I think the guys that are going to survive to Sunday will be the best ones to adjust, but I just don't know if those guys that adjust will have already have been in the top 10. Will we see 2 guys from the high 20s then come up into the top 10, couple guys fall? I mean, this is every hour of every day. If you aren't watching live, if you are genuinely interested in who's going to win ROI and Angler of the Year, like, this is going to be awesome. Like, this is going to be so cool. I mean, there are legit 4 guys in both of those categories who have a legitimate chance. And 2 days of practice, ever-changing conditions, much different conditions than last year, totally different boat ramp than last year. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun.
This could be one of the ones where they go off live and you don't know who's won. Like, really don't know who's won. And
the tough thing about that too, though, is some guys are going to have an hour drive back, so we're going to know what some guys have.
So I think this is a better definition of what the weather report is going to be. And unfortunately, I never trust the NOAA because it's always double what they are forecasting. Unless it's 1 foot or less, that usually means that it is flat calm. So Thursday, Friday, and that's just my interpretation of it here on Lake Erie. So Thursday, Friday, it's going to be 1 foot or less, but there's always an afternoon wind. Always, no matter where you are in the Great Lakes, that can kick up to about 2 foot. So be on the aware that's the guys that might have a late flight, might have rougher conditions out on the lake, but they might already be gone anyways. So Thursday, Friday, weather looks amazing. Friday night, it starts picking up, wind starts blowing. You have south winds. The saving grace right here is the southeast wind that kind of blows it off the shore a little bit. If they're turning and heading south as opposed to running the north line of Canada, Canada will be huge. Like 1 to 3 probably will actually be 4 to 5, even 6 footers once you get over to that Canadian shore, because this is only to the St. Lawrence River along Lake Ontario. So it's not the open water forecast.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, it didn't read like an open water forecast.
So essentially double whatever this says for that open water. Saturday, because you're going to have thunderstorms overnight, Saturday, the lake is still going to be big in building until the late afternoon. Back to Sunday where it's 2 foot or less. So that means it's going to be big in the morning and settling down by midday.
It's going to be fun, man. This ain't easy. Last year we had 4 gorgeous days, and they were going out of Clayton and they were going to the lake every day.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. I lied. We didn't have 4 gorgeous days. Wasn't the first one insane? Was it huge the first day?
I know one of the days was huge because it was no matter what the forecast says, one of the days will always be big.
That's what it was, because I didn't go up there on Thursday last year. So I remember it in my head as being 4 gorgeous days, but this year we get the wrench thrown in the middle. So it'll be interesting. I'm stoked. I mean, Andy, you got to be stoked too, right? Like, you love fantasy fishing and you love smallmouth fishing. Like, dude, I know you're a busy guy, but I know you'll be sneaking peeks at Bass
usually
every
like
you get.
I've hardly had a chance to watch any of them this year, and I will definitely try to tune into this one. Like I said, I'm fishing a tournament Saturday. As long as The wind forecast right now looks absolutely terrible, so it's probably going to get rescheduled. But yeah, I'm going to try to watch as much as I can. Definitely going to watch the final day for sure because I'll have some free time. Justin, weight prediction.
I tend to always go high. I said 99.7.
99.7 is not high at all. That's very doable in the river. I think that's a great choice, honestly. I do have all of their weight predictions. Give me 1 second. So Deakin went 101.3. I like that. Who is this? Brennan is 97.8, and Bailey went 98.8.
Love what you guys are. It's almost like you guys do this for a living. You guys are on point. I love those picks.
And
Those
here's
are great
mine.
picks.
Just for proof in the pudding, I did not write it down now. 98.7.
Nice.
Yeah, that was not coordinated with Bailey at all. It just, I think all year our weights have been like 1 or 2 ounces off almost every event.
Wow. So
yep.
you and Bailey and Deke, you guys, and Justin too, you guys don't think we'll see a Century Club this year?
It could easily happen. The issue is Saturday. And that
I just think the issue is the mud. I think it's just, I think if you think about it, Thursday last year was comparable to the Saturday this year, but like, I don't think it's a river thing. Like, I just don't think the water clarity is there for these guys to just go out there and sack them on the lake. So I don't think the guys can do as well on the river.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We will see. Yeah. 98.7. I think that's a good spot to be.
It's
so
an awesome pick.
Do you want to do Drain the Lake, Joe, or do you want us to just run through them real fast?
No, you can do them. Go ahead.
Make sure mine are not in there. My weight is in. All right. So, Justin, who do you have for Drain the Lake?
Switching over there now. Oh, and just I'm losing this by a lot for the record, but I actually saved some pretty big names for this one. So I got both Johnsons. I got Shakurik. I got Coop. I got Koya, Logan Parks, Bob Downey, and Bernie Schultz.
Love it. All right. So Bailey has Coop, Gussie, Taku, Chris Johnston, Corey Johnston, BP, Maddie Wong, and Ike. And Ike has good events up here sometimes too, especially if it's in the river.
Yeah.
Brennan took Taku, Chris Johnston, Mueller, Koyo Fujita, Cooper, Kyle Norstetter, sleepy drain lake pick. Yep, and John Garrett. That was Brennan, and Deacon took CJ, Coop Gallant, Taku, Greg DePalma, good pick, Paul Mueller, Elks Redwine, Elks Weatherall, and Mike Eikenelli.
I like that one the best.
And then my Drain the Lake, I have Coop, Taku, CJ, so Chris Johnson, Corey Johnston, Brandon Lester, who's had some good river events, Jay Shakirat, Patty Walters, and Bernie Schultz.
That's awesome too.
I stockpiled some of my guys here for the last.
Well, I like yours. You had lake and river experience in yours too.
So let me put them all in here real fast. And some high picks, why not?
Oh, you know what? I just saw flash by that. Did anybody talk about Shane LaHue in this event?
No, but he's very good river.
Yes, he is.
He almost won one a few years ago, right? Like
that was the Chris Johnston one
in the river where he's catching him on a hair jig.
Yeah, that was the Chris Johnston shallow win.
Yeah, I think that was the event that Corey Johnson kept ripping up boats.
Yeah, I think so too.
So load these in here.
When they catch him on a hair jig in the river there, is that more like a Tennessee River really deep structure, or is that the shallow?
They're catching them in like 4 to 12 foot with like a 3/32 ounce marabou, and they're casting that thing as far as they can, and basically you have to hover in the water column with a straight line in current, so it's a lot harder than it looks. And the guys that know how to do it, literally, like, that's the easiest way to catch a giant shallow is that stupid hair jig, and I hate fishing. I'm god awful at it, so my patience doesn't allow me to do it.
It's like what I always like about it is I love to look at Chris Johnston's deck when he's fishing shallow, which we might see on live this first day, especially tomorrow. He's got 12 rods, 6 on each side, and they're all unhooked. And the baits, he's just got this mess across his front deck where when he hooks one, he's got to like step over.
Oh, yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Dude, I love like, but his shallow game is like, he's got the spy bait and the hair jig and the Kitech and the like, and he's just got it all lined up, and the Ned rig and the drop shot. They're all right there, and he has them all out, so he can just like see a situation, grab a rod, and go. And like, wow, I can't wait to see it. And the hair jig's a big part of it for him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering. Like on Saturday, it's like, do we even bother going to the lake? Because it's going to take them probably 10, 15 minutes longer in a run, because going through some stretches of that river down by the mouth in a 20, 25 knot southeast wind is going to, if it's a southeast wind, first of all, it's going to stack against the current in spots. So it's going to make it even more rough, and the waves are going to be closer and tighter together. And the south wind is going to blow right across the river. So you're going to have that cross chop that's,
I mean, the toughest part of the river to run is from the Ogdensburg Bridge to Whaleback, which is, 5 miles east of Chippewa Bay. So basically from where KVD won to the Ogdensburg Bridge where Frazier won, Micah Frazier won, that's the toughest, like 10 miles. Like, because when the current's going one way, if you get any kind of east wind going the other, it can get
that's
gnarly.
where it funnels, right? And it speeds up a lot right there. Yeah.
And it's just long. It's just a long, straight section with
freighters.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Awesome.
I've also gone through there before on some days where I'm like not looking forward to that section. And like, you can either get on the US side or the Canada side and stay kind of close to shore, and it's been fine. So like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. It might not be that bad. And these guys run boats for a living. So, I mean, I just wouldn't want to be a marshal on Saturday.
Yeah. So before we round it out here, Joe, I want to say thank you for joining us, because we have such a short crowd of guys tonight.
Thank you
for hopping in and coming on. But what are some key takeaways you think that you hope to see from this event? And 2, what to like highlight the season before we have a fantasy fishing closeout show? What was like your favorite thing of the Bassmaster Elite season this year before we round out the show?
To be honest, I love watching Robert G on live. I had heard about him last year, but like have never met the guy. And I love watching him eat Chick-fil-A on live. I love watching a fish jump in his boat last week. He's as young almost as the entire, like he's as young as the youngest in the group, just about, with the exception of Trey. I mean, JT might be a year or two younger, but the dude carries himself like my Uncle Frank, and I love that about him. I really have enjoyed watching watching G online. I mean, that's been awesome. I love that Champlain just keeps getting better every year. Like if you go all the way back in the Polinick series to 2017 when he won AOI, it's nothing. Like the weights are nothing like they are 7 years later in 24. So it's nice seeing Champlain be awesome. I hate all of the controversy, but I love that. I think wherever we end up, Chase Anderson he realizes the gravity of the choice that him and Davey Height and that panel are going to make. And they're they care so much because they know the whole sport is watching. Like, I think they got a lot of grief last week for not announcing a decision. And it's because Chase truly cares. Like, he truly understands the gravity of what it means for the entire sport of bass fishing. So, I mean, those three things are just what I think is so cool about what's going on in fishing right now is, you know, we've seen so much negativity, but we see this young buck having a good time and doing it the right way. And it's been exciting. You know, we see a fishery that, you know, is a cool smallmouth fishery continuing to get better. And then we see bass trying to do their best to do everything they can to be an industry leader. I mean, those are my three biggest takeaways. And it's nice that I think there's less. I do feel like in the last couple of weeks, there's less negativity in the sport. And I hope that continues through the off season. I hope when this announcement comes back, everybody doesn't go back to being keyboard warriors. And I mean, I just want to see the sport keep progressing. So, I mean, those are my biggest takeaways from the season. The other thing that you and I and Justin talked about off air, that I just kind of think needs like an honorable mention today is I saw Menendez posted, this might be the last largemouth. He posted it his last day on Champlain at the end of the day. This might be the last largemouth. He catches, I forget the wording he used. It was like a little cryptic. You know, like if Mark Menendez leaves the sport of professional bass fishing, you know, I hope everyone just realizes the impact he has made from a biology standpoint and a conservation standpoint. And like, yeah. I hope we all can honor him the right way, because I think he's a future Hall of Famer, you know.
100%. Man, I totally forgot to bring that up. Talking about all the Elite Series guys that are leaving, right? And Mark is very likely one of them. And like, I wrote up a list, like just to run through some names real fast. And then Chris Flay put in a question here. We're going to get to it here in a second. But like, we're talking about guys like long-standing bass guys that could be gone after this event forever, right? Bernie Schultz, Frank Talley, Scott Martin is another name that could be gone after this year if he doesn't have a really huge event. And he's going to be at the Classic, but I don't see a way for him to requalify through the Opens at this point. Am I correct, Joe? Like, he's too far down in the standings there too. So like,
oh
Scott,
yeah, I mean yeah, I don't think he fished enough of them, right? He didn't even fish all of them.
Yeah, Scott Martin has that chance. David Mullins, your buddy John Sukup, who saw that coming after 2 years. Joseph Webster, KJ Queen, Brad Watley, I think, is another one.
Is KJ on the block?
I think KJ might be on the block. He's had a rough couple of years, poor guy. And then Mark Menendez that we already talked about. These are just ones that I have written down on my list, and it's a guess. I don't know the exact standings, but like, this is just a rough list. Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know, it's so confusing. There's your 2-year total, your 3-year total. If you finish, and it's on everybody who is finished 71st or below in AOI this year is up for debate and falls into certain qualification categories. It's almost, I don't even know how they figure it out.
Yeah, and then like 2-year guys have a 2-year rating, and then 3-year guys have a 3-year rating, and then if you're past 3 years, like you get like your 3, like I don't even know how they rate like at that point. But like, it's a 3-year average over your longevity of ridiculous how.
But after 5 years, you get a throwaway year. It's so weird.
That's what I'm saying. It's just very, very interesting the way they wait and score it all. But Elite Series, you know, you say it every year, and I don't think any of these guys take it for granted. But it is the hardest sport to stay at the top, because as fast as you get in, you're gone. Unfortunately, sometimes if it just doesn't all work out, you need literally everything to work out for 2 years to stay. And then
I remember when sorry to interrupt you. I know I've done it like 10 times, but when I first started fishing BFLs in 2017, I was hanging around a lot of old timers who were real knowledgeable, and they said, qualifying is a lot harder than staying a professional angler. You just have to get there. And it ain't that way anymore. Like, a lot has changed in 7 years.
It's crazy. But yeah, it's we can see a lot of things happen here at this event, and I just hope for a lot of big smallmouth, and I hope some of the guys that are fighting for their life can stay it and then make some surprise cuts. Like, who doesn't like drama, right? Like, and this event's set up to produce a lot of drama, and then whoever wins gets a free berth to the classic, so that bumps down a spot so somebody else gets in too, depending on if they're
I think, what are we at right now? 42?
I think we're at 42.
So Weatherall's Bubble Boy?
Yeah. Which will probably change because it's like home turf for him, basically. So,
oh yeah. And Jonathan Kelly, after the last one, fell a little. He's down because he was Bubble Boy going into Champlain.
Yeah.
And he fell, and we have to assume both of those guys will be in.
Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting event. And Justin, like, I want to get your take on it too, but I think we're gonna save it for the wrap-up show just because we're so far in here at this point, an hour 30 in. And I do want to hit Chris Flay's question here before we wrap it up, because it's something I think we should touch. What is the guess on big fish of the event and big bag of the event?
Shoot, I'll throw out 7-2 for big fish.
That's a solid guess. Joe?
What was Upshaw's when he big fish that open?
I don't remember.
It was like 613, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 613 and 26-12, like 26 3/4.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have 28. What was Brian Smith's 20 big bag?
29-1, 29-2.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll see 29, but I'd be almost willing to bet that we see like a 27 to 28 pound bag out of the river, because it happens all the time. Yeah.
I'll go 28-1.
Yeah. I'm gonna go up I'm gonna go down actually 27-11. I like that. That sounds good. 27-11. I do think the big fish will be over 7, just because it seems like the average size of smallmouth is way up again this year. So I'm going to say around a 7.5 pounder will be the big fish. We already saw an 8 pounder caught by Kyle Patrick, and who knows what else these guys have caught, because a lot of them go radio silent during practice. So, like, I'm sure there's been other giants caught in the tournament. Paul Mueller's caught an 8 pounder in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised at that at all.
Yeah, I mean, there could be 7-15s caught after Kyle posted that halfway through the first practice day, and people are just like, good, everybody's looking at him, don't look at me,
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm not knocking Kyle. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good for your sponsors. Every one of his sponsors reposted it.
Yeah. It's awesome. That's how you continue to grow the sport. So, all right, guys. Well, what do you say? Do we wrap it up here about the St. Lawrence River?
It was good. Thank you for having me back, buddy.
Yeah, thank you for joining us in extremely last minute, because we had a bunch of ducks duck out on us. But yeah, we'll see everyone next Tuesday for Serious Angler Tuesday Night Live. I know there's been a couple weeks here that we haven't had Tuesday Night Lives or a Friday episode. So thank you to everyone who tunes in on a weekly basis. Justin, do you have a kayak fishing weekly coming up?
I believe so. The one that I said I was going to post last week, we haven't posted yet, but that's my fault. So we'll run that one this week.
Perfect. Sounds great to me. And then stay tuned for the Lure Lab this weekend. It's already ready to rock. And I'm not going to slip the cat out of the bag on it. I just want everyone to tune in on Saturday. So to end it on that note, we will see you all later.